who was part Cherokee and Caribbean. She could have passed for white, but she chose not to. Her family got upset with her because my grandfather was darker than I am. So she did something she wasn't supposed to do. But she decided she was a maid. She actually was the maid for the president of the bank in Douglas, Georgia. And so therefore, when we would go visit her, I would spend time with the banker's daughter. Because when my grandmother had to go to their house, that meant if we were visiting my grandmother, we had to go and spend time. So my grandfather worked for, I think I shared with Jim yesterday, worked for the railroad. He was not a Pullman porter, he was a laborer. So economically, within the context of American society, for some people, I should have gone to Columbia University. But the Spirit had it so. Gender, I'll come back to race. Gender, I choose to walk and be a woman. That's who I am, a heterosexual woman. That's not to say I discriminate against any persons who choose to walk differently in life, because we're all created in God's image. Religion. Yes, I'm an ordained American Baptist minister who works at Trinity United Church of Christ, which is a part of the United Church of Christ denomination, but because the United Church of Christ is open, they've been asked to serve there. But religion, as far as religion is concerned, my family is a mixture of Catholic, Protestant, Muslim, and then there's some who don't believe. Race. I shared a bit with you. So sometimes, quite honestly, depending on the climate, depending on where I am, when I have to check a box, for African American, Native American, white, other, sometimes I'll just check other, just to make them think, well, who is this person? Who is this person? With that said, I want to give you some quick bullet points, historical, real-lived bullet points. The reality is, as I shared with you earlier, not all of us who were immigrants came across Ellis Island. And within the context of the transatlantic slave movement, if you don't know this already, and I may be repeating some information, many of you already know it, perhaps all of you know, that religion, Christianity, played a huge part in slavery. A huge part in slavery. And in fact, if you don't have this book, it's in its 8th edition. I highly recommend it. Unfortunately, Ashley Montague has gone on, but he was one of the foremost anthropologists and a humanist. And in his book, the seminal book, A Man's Most Dangerous Myth, The Fallacy of Race, he was able to find out that in the year 1455, a pope made this statement. The net effect, first of all, approval was given for the subjugation of infidels to Christians. The net effect of this decree was the official sanction for the enslavement of blacks, indigenous Americans, and other infidels for their benefit. This was handed down by the Pope. So let's stop here for a moment. Let's talk about internalized oppression. And let me say that the images, I have specifically chosen the images of dark-skinned people, African Americans, because that's who I am, but I'm still a member of your family. But anyone who's considered the other, you've heard the introduction that part of my scholarly investigation includes alterity, which means other. So if I was Asian, perhaps I would use Asians. If I was a member of the LGBT community, perhaps I would use different slides. But today I'm here to share with you about who I am and what it means for me to be a dark-skinned black woman who works with the integration of media, faith, and politics, what that means. I've chosen this historic picture which is a representation of an actual man who was a slave, who was beaten many, many times. And these are the scars that developed from the brutality that he experienced. But I thought metaphorically that this could also be an example of internalized oppression. If you're a black person, you're constantly, most of the time, beat down when you walk in the store. I'll tell you, even when I was flying here, you know, some people were just kind of looking at me like, so, but that happens. I'll never forget after, a couple of days after the attack on September 1st, 2001, I was traveling, and that particular day I had my head wrapped. And so I walked up to the flight attendant, and she just started yelling at me. Don't you know you people shouldn't be flying on planes anymore? You just cause so much havoc to our nation. So she's thinking because I had my head wrapped that I was Muslim. That's pretty deep. But I can say there is a tall white male. I didn't know, he looked like perhaps maybe he worked on Wall Street. And he came to my defense. He didn't have to, but he chose to. So with that said, there are many of us walking around, maybe perhaps not with physical scars like my brother here, but there are internalized scars. I shared an internalized scars with you about my cousin. I still remember that. And so when she told me that, and literally ever since then, I just thought, okay, my parents, and because they knew that I was